Hey everyone, Jimmy here with Progressive Performance, and I'm going to tell you why I think you aren't eating enough protein. Alright guys, so when we look at protein distribution in the diet, it helps you for a couple of different reasons. Now, this is something that I have had conversations with clients about a lot, and the conversations that we have tend to help them understand why I suggest such a high protein diet for weight loss. So, and not only weight loss, but muscle gain as well. So when we look at a couple of different factors with distributing our calories. So I'll always say this, you gotta look at your calories first. Calories are the first thing. So if you're not eating a low enough amount of calories to lose weight or a high enough amount of calories to gain weight, that's your first problem. But today we're talking about protein. So if we break down all three of our macronutrients, we're gonna break down our carbohydrates, our fats, and our proteins. Okay? So we have our carbs, fats, and proteins. Now, with each one of these carbs, fats, and proteins, we have a certain amount of calories per gram, right? So we have 4 calories per gram with carbs, 9 calories per gram with fats, and 4 calories per gram with protein. Now, this then shows us, okay, well, if I have 9 calories per gram of fat, I can't eat a super high fat diet, or it's inherently gonna be super high calorie, right? It's almost twice the amount of calories, a little bit more than twice the amount of calories per gram that either protein or carbohydrate is, right? So when we look at that, then we're looking at, okay, which ones do I pick? Well, your diet is gonna be a higher percentage of these two macronutrients, for one, because it's gonna keep you fuller, right? So fats don't keep you as full or as satiated because there's not as much volume to break down. And they don't take as much energy to break down as the other two nutrients. And we'll get into that in a second. So if we look at calories per gram, and then we're gonna look at gastric emptying time. So how long it takes to get through your system for you to digest it, break it down, and move it into the places where it needs to go, right? And sometimes that's fat storage if there's too many calories total. But our carbohydrates are gonna go into our muscle fiber as glycogen to help replenish that. Our carbohydrates are also gonna be used as free-form energy, as glucose, and deposited as body fat. Our fats are gonna be used for hormone production, lubrication of the joints, cell membrane a little bit, and stored as fat if there's too much. And our protein is gonna be used to build muscle mass and build our tissues back up, heal our bodies, right? So the protein is an expensive nutrient because it takes a lot of calories to, 1, break it down, and 2, turn it into the muscle that we're gonna build. So if we look at gastric emptying time, we can compare these things and then talk a little bit about why protein is so expensive. So we got our carbohydrates. Our carbohydrate gastric emptying time is gonna be anywhere from 30 minutes and 2 hours. We're looking at fats is gonna be between 6 and 8 hours. But remember that it doesn't take a lot of energy to break it down, it just takes a lot of time. So it's gonna sit in your belly longer, which in turn can keep you a little bit fuller, but that's why we mix things together, right? But there's not a lot of volume. So we have to be cognizant of that, keeping you full, because there's 2 ways you stay full, right? It's either the volume in your stomach or how heavy that food is feeling to you, right? So you're not gonna be that full eating high fat foods because the volume, the pressure sensors in your stomach are not gonna go off and say, I'm done eating, right? Now, our protein is gonna be 3 to 5 hours with gastric emptying time there, okay? So we look at this gastric emptying time and we go, okay, well, what's gonna be the fastest digested? Carbohydrates, right? Fastest to digest. So we don't want an extremely high carbohydrate diet or an extremely high sugar diet because the sugar is gonna digest faster, right? So if the sugar digests faster, the closer we get to sugar, the closer to that 30 minutes we're getting, and the closer we get to like oatmeal, brown rice, these high fiber carbohydrates, the closer we're getting to this 2-hour mark. So when we're looking at carbohydrate, we should probably be eating high fiber carbohydrate as well to slow our gastric emptying time and keep us fuller for longer periods of time, right? Now, to break down carbohydrate, you will have monosaccharides and polysaccharides that you're gonna break them down into glucose, right? Which isn't necessarily a super high energy expenditure process in the body, especially if they're closer to sugar than being closer to high fiber grains. So, that being said, not super expensive, right? Now, when we look at fats, they digest over a slow, long period of time, but you really only have to, you have a glyceride molecule and 3 fatty acids, and you just have to break those bonds to get the fat to go where it needs to go. So, not a high energy process in comparison to protein, which is a folded up structure that is folded into a binary structure and a tertiary structure. You have to unfold that whole structure and then unfold it into what we're talking about with our peptides, and then down to our individual amino acids, and break those down to then use them and assimilate those back into what we need to build muscle in the body or build tissue back up. So I know a little bit sciencey, we're kind of diving into stuff, but this is the reason why a high protein diet, because protein is expensive and keeps you full, is one reason why a high protein diet is gonna be better in the long term for fat loss. Now, one other huge benefit from a high protein diet is gonna be the fact that you build more muscle if you have more protein in your diet. Now, typically the research is telling us a gram per pound of body weight, maybe a little bit less than that, is optimal for muscle growth, especially if you strength train on a regular basis, which is the type of exercise that I promote mostly. So, that being the case, the more muscle you have, the higher your metabolism is, the more food you can potentially eat and still maintain a lean body mass. So, protein has benefits on all sides of this. So if you're not getting enough protein, you can take in some whey protein supplements, really help people get their protein goal, and just increasing the animal products that you're eating in your diet. If you are vegetarian or vegan, you're gonna need a little more protein than what I'm recommending. So we have to keep the beans really high in the diet. Dairy and eggs really help, as well as soy is gonna be the big forms of protein that you are gonna take in. So I hope this video helps and helps justify the reason why you need to be eating more protein.